In September 2021, I published Race Relations and Employment Law Put Simply in Black and White. In 2023, I published a second edition, and I'm currently working on the third. It was and is a challenge to capture so much in so little space. I spent as much time thinking about what to leave out as I do what to leave in. I was called to the bar in 1996 and have been practicing employment law since 1999. My first big case was reported in the media, which thrust me, reluctantly at the time, on live television. From there on, I was no longer just a civil and construction law barrister. The preface to the first edition of Race Relation applies equally to this book, so I shall not seek to reinvent the wheel and simply rehearse it for this book.
After many years of practicing as an employment law barrister, I have sought to encapsulate some of that experience in print, simply put in black and white, that I hope will be of assistance to many, be it an employee, current and former, employer, worker, claimant, respondent, HR, student, and of course the intrigued. This book introduces discrimination in employment law in 7 days. It does not seek to cover every minutiae of this fascinating and intriguing subject. It would take a much larger book to achieve that aim successfully.
This book provides a detailed overview of discrimination in employment law in the UK over 7 days, focusing on the Equality Act 2010. It covers the legislative process, protected characteristics such as age, disability, gender reassignment, marriage and civil partnership, race, religion or belief, sex and sexual orientation, and prohibited conduct, including direct and indirect discrimination, harassment and victimization. The book also delves into disability-specific protections such as reasonable adjustments and discrimination arising from disability, and outlines the rights and obligations of employers and employees. It emphasizes the importance of contracts of employment, both express and implied terms, and the role of employment tribunals and remedies available. The 7 days are broken down as:
Day 1. The law. Explains the nature of the law, distinguishing primary legislation from secondary legislation. Outlines the legislative process using the Equality Act 2010 as an example, and describes contracts of employment and the role of staff handbooks. Day 2. Protected characteristics. Details the protected characteristics under the Equality Act 2010 relevant to employment, and explains who is covered under the 2010 Act and how. Day 3. Protected characteristic of disability. Defines disability and explains the statutory definition and discusses deemed disabilities. Day 4. Prohibited conduct. Explains the main types of unlawful conduct under the Equality Act 2010. Day 5. Prohibited conduct related to disability. Continues with disability-specific protections, including discrimination arising from disability and the duty to make reasonable adjustments. Day 6. Rights, obligations and liabilities. Outlines the rights of workers not to be unlawfully discriminated against and the corresponding obligations of employers. Explains the process for presenting claims to employment tribunals and defending them. Day 7. Remedies and further topical obligations. Covers remedies available in employment tribunals and discusses the new legal duties such as, for example, requiring employers to take reasonable steps to prevent sexual harassment at work.
Again, I rehearsed the concluding paragraph from the preface to the first edition of Race Relations. Finally, this book and its contents are not a substitution for specific legal advice. If the reader is faced, or listener, with an issue covered in this book, they should and are strongly advised to seek specific legal advice accordingly. However, the reason you are reading or listening to this part is because you are already either fascinated or intrigued by this area of law. Enjoy.